Good evening, everyone. I'm Gary Witherspoon, Deputy Project Director for Public Outreach and Communications for the Purple Line. On behalf of Governor Larry Hogan, Transportation Secretary Gregory Slater, and Acting Maryland Transit Administration Administrator Holly Arnold, welcome to the 8th Community Advisory Team meeting for the Littensville Greater Woodside communities. Due to ongoing COVID restrictions, we are trying the Teams format this time. It's a little different and we hope easier to use than last time out. Please bear with us as we navigate this round of live public meetings. And please make sure your phones are muted. This evening's presentation is being recorded, so you'll be able to find it later on our website, purplelinemd.com, along with responses to questions we could either not answer or could not get to tonight. Next slide, please. To begin with tonight, project leaders will introduce themselves and we'll go over ground rules for the meeting. We'll discuss project status, give you a look at the colorful light rail vehicles, provide a construction update, and tell you how to stay up to date on the project. Then we'll open the floor to questions. Here are the leaders of the MDOT/MTA Department of Transit Development and Delivery, which oversees the project. Next slide, please. Take it away, Matt.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Pollock, Executive Director for Transit Development and Delivery, and I am responsible for delivering the Purple Line. Next, I'm pleased to pass it over and introduce Purple Line's Project Director, Vern Hartsock.
Thank you very much, Matt, and good evening, everyone. Again, Vernon Hartsock, Project Director for the Purple Line. I'm responsible for the design, construction, and operations of the Purple Line. I'd now like to introduce our Acting Deputy Project Director, Anita Rogers, who recently received a very well-deserved promotion to join us as the newest member of the senior leadership team. Anita, please.
Hi, good evening. I am Anita Rogers, the Acting Deputy Project Director and Contracting Officer for MDOT/MTA. I've been with MTA for 6 years and have been on the Purple Line project since 2017. I am responsible for contracting, project controls, project administration, diversity and inclusions. I have a great team supporting me and I look forward to taking this project to its completion. Back to you, Gary.
Thank you, Anita. Now for some ground rules. Next slide. We ask that everyone is treated courteously and with respect. No rude comments, please. Everyone should feel welcome to participate. Please hold your questions until the end of the meeting and take turns. Wait to be called on to ask a question. Please raise your hand using the icon on your screen, and we will accept questions and comments first from CAP members and elected officials, and then we will open it to the general public. All participants' lines will be muted until we open the question part of the meeting. The chat function will be monitored during the meeting, so you also can type in your questions. Next slide, please. Tonight, we'll cover the segment of the Purple Line that includes the following stations: Littensville and 16th Street Woodside. Now we're going back to Acting Deputy Project Director Anita Rogers. As Project Director Vern Hartsock said, Anita is the newest addition to the project leadership, but she has served in the background on the financial side of things for a few years. You might have seen her in a social media post during Women's History Month. She has a great story to tell, and I'd encourage you to check it out on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Collectively, Matt, Vern, and Anita represent the new leaders of the Office of Transit Development and Delivery. Anita?
Thank you, Gary. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little project update, we've been very busy over the past 6 months, and I just want to give you an update on the progress made to get our design builder on board. So the settlement agreement was approved by the Board of Public Works and Purple Line Transit Partners. has started the procurement process to resolicit the project for a new design build contract. In addition to that, MDOT MTA jointly with PLTP will have final approval over the selected replacement design build contractor and we have continued to manage and advance construction during this interim period. Next slide, please. So here I would like to point out the PLTP's key milestones for the procurement. In January, our concessionaire, the Purple Line Transit Partners, PLTP, issued a request for qualifications to several firms that previously expressed interest in working on the Purple Line project. So in March, PLTP received qualifications from a number of firms and whittled that number down to 3 qualified design build teams who received the request for proposal. And these teams are Maryland Transit Solutions, comprised of Dragados USA and OHL USA, Hallmark International, and the final one is Tutor Perini Lunda, which is a joint venture. Now, these 3 proposer teams are currently reviewing documents, they're asking questions, they're conducting site visits, and they're performing due diligence to evaluate the project. At the request of these 3 proposer teams, the state and PLTP have mutually agreed to extend the solicitation period by 60 days, and this will allow the teams more time to price the work going forward in a thoughtful and competitive manner, which with so much existing information to absorb, the additional time will help the teams to go deeper into the data, reduce their risk, provide the best value to the state, and ensure a successful project restart. Now, once we select the best value, we will then take that contract to BPW. Next slide, please. And with that, I will pass to Vern to discuss MDOT MTA's management of manufacturing and construction. Vern?
Thank you very much, Anita. Yes, in terms of an update on the light rail vehicle, I'm just going to mention that our light rail vehicles are among the longest in North America. They're 140 feet long, and they're built using 5 segments called car shells. These car shells are fabricated and painted in Spain, then shipped to Elmira, New York, where they're populated with electromechanical systems and all of the equipment needed to create a safety certifiable transit vehicle. So for a little update on the production of these car shells, know that we've been working directly with the vehicle manufacturer CAF in the production of the LRVs. All of the 130 car shells needed to build the entire fleet have been fabricated. 94 of them have been painted. 82 of them are in Elmira, New York for assembly. 5 are in transit from Spain to Elmira, and 7 are awaiting shipment from Spain to Elmira. Next slide, please. Now, for an update as to what construction that we've progressed over the last 6 months, let me first say that whenever you're building a light rail line, the first order of business is always utility relocations. And this is because in building a light rail line, we have to bury significant infrastructure in the ground and place it overhead, including drainage systems, sub-ballast, ballast, railroad ties, track, catenary pole foundations that can be up to 19 feet in the ground, catenary poles, the infrastructure overhead wire, as well as cable troughs and trays to carry the many power, signal, and communication cables. So in order to build all this, we have to remove any utilities, relocate them that are conflicting with the alignment. So our primary focus over the last 6 months has been on the underground utility relocations. We're about 5% complete with all those relocations in this affected area. In addition to that, we've worked on some other structures along the alignment, including completed the Rock Creek pedestrian bridge substructure. We've constructed the retaining wall at the Falklands Apartments and restored the parking lot. We're very pleased to return that to the residents. We began tree clearing the week of June 14th between 16th Street and Spring Street, adjacent to the CSX tracks. And we began Pepco utility overhead relocations at Talbot Avenue. Next slide, please. In offering some progress photos, here we see the restored Falkland Apartments parking lot. Again, we're very pleased to return this to the residents for their use. Next slide, please. This is the tree clearing work zone that I spoke of. Now, these trees are being cleared to make room for water and sewer utility relocations. And this is also the area where the future CCT, Capitol Crescent Trail, will be located. Next slide, please. Here we see the Rock Creek concrete placement for the new pedestrian bridge taking place. Next slide, please. Now, I'm giving a look ahead for the next 6 months in terms of what we plan to do in construction. Again, we're going to continue the underground utility relocations, including the water line along 3rd Avenue, Ballard Street, Bradford Place, and 16th Street. We're going to work on the sewer at Spring Center and 3rd Avenue and Ballard Street. Now, this is time-sensitive work, this water line work, or this sewer work, excuse me, as this work will run under the WMATA and CSX tracks. And because we're going under railroad tracks, this work has to continue 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until it's complete. We have to really be efficient about accomplishing this work in an efficient time frame. We're also going to complete the Pepco overhead crossing at Talbot Avenue, and we're going to continue the tree clearing between 16th Street and Spring Street adjacent to the CSX tracks. This clearing should be finished during this month, actually, as well as graffiti removal on the Littonsville Place Bridge by the end of August. I'm now going to pass back to Gary Witherspoon for an update on construction work times. Thank you.
Thank you, Vern. As you've seen, construction work continues. Our typical day shift will run from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and our typical night shift from 7 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. Our maintenance day will be Saturdays as required. You'll see notifications posted on purplelinemd.com for all work zones and hours in which work will be conducted, along with any lane closures that are needed. Next slide, please. You should know that existing traffic patterns will change as work occurs as needed, and work may occur on both sides of the road and across roadways. When a lane closure is required, a notice will be distributed via text and email. But again, you have to sign up through purplelinemd.com, purplelinemd.com. Throughout our work sites, you may see orange cones and barrels serving as temporary barricades. And you'll see flag persons, when required, directing traffic. We ask you to be especially careful around our construction sites. Pedestrian safety is paramount, as is the safety of our workers. We want everyone to make it home safely every day. Safety, after all, is our #1 priority. And finally, because underground utility work is ongoing, you may see temporary road plates in place. Please be careful when driving or walking over those. Next slide, please. The MDOT MTA has a business engagement team in the Purple Line Project Management Office to foster relationships with those businesses along the alignment that may be impacted. The team is led by Leslie Leaf, the longtime senior liaison on the project, and it includes Marlene Veras, the business engagement officer for Prince George's County, and Mindeep, the business engagement officer for Montgomery County. I also want to acknowledge the outreach team members who do a great job of arranging these meetings and preparing these presentations. They also do a great job of responding to calls and emails. Our outreach manager is Lauren Garrett. Julio Cerrone is our digital engagement liaison, and Genesis Baez is the new liaison for Prince George's County. Running tonight's presentation is Will Campbell, who helps lead the project's photo and video efforts. We are grateful for all of their hard work. Next slide, please. Again, you can sign up for construction notices at purplelinemd.com. For project questions and comments, contact the outreach team, that's us, at outreach@purplelinemd.com, outreach@purplelinemd.com. Or you can call us, English 443-451-3706, and Spanish at 443-451-3705. We are manning our hotlines, so someone will be available to take your calls around the clock. And please follow us on social media. We've got great stuff on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Next slide, please. This concludes our formal CAP presentation. Before we open the meeting to live questions, I'll invite our local elected officials to comment. I see that we have a representative from Delegate Jared Solomon's office on the call. Delegate, would you care to comment? You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, there we go. Gary, can you hear me? Was not
Yes, I
allowing
can.
you
Go
to
ahead.
unmute. Thank you. So this is Delegate Solomon. Thank you for putting this together. I appreciate the update. I think there are two sort of big issues. One, I think will probably not surprise the folks from your team. We actually, our District 18 delegation, along with Councilmember Hucker and Councilmember Glass, sent a letter actually this afternoon regarding the Talbot Avenue Bridge. And I know obviously there are some things in flux with the new build design firm, in the selection process. But I know, we had a conversation with the MTA team, when things were in transition, and I think probably many of the folks on the call are disappointed not to see any mention of it. So I'm hoping maybe you all could address, what the timing is of that. And, our letter requested that as soon as a new build design firm is hired, that becomes a priority number one to get finished. We want to hold you to the promises that you made to get that bridge finished as quickly as possible. So I'm hoping maybe you can comment on that.
Okay, we will. Thank you. Matt, do you want to address that before we move to other questions that came in before the meeting?
Yeah, that's fine. So Delegate Solomon, thank you. We did receive the letter this afternoon, and we are reviewing it, and we'll definitely respond directly to the elected officials. Certainly as it relates to the Talbot Avenue Bridge, we understand the frustration of the community and the elected officials. To say that we're super anxious ourselves is somewhat of an understatement, but we'd like to get beyond this interim construction period and take the project to completion. And as you noted, during this interim construction period, the state committed to minimizing the impacts to other projects in the state. So that in turn required that we as the Purple Line remained laser focused on just moving forward that construction, which would reduce the overall risk profile to the project. And that's why you see us doing all the permitting and utility relocations, and the other construction, such as the Talbot Avenue Bridge, has been deferred for completion by the new design builder. So that's where we are right now. We don't know when the Talbot Avenue Bridge would be completed because we don't yet have a construction schedule or a preferred design builder yet.
All right,
Thank you, Matt. I think.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Gary. The only other topic that I would just bring up is, I think you mentioned graffiti removal on the Littonsville Place Bridge. Obviously, that bridge is also not completed. It's functional at least, but I think there's some major issues with the road paving, sort of at the transition points, and obviously, the sidewalks are not finished. So I don't know if you could give an update on whether the finishing touches on that bridge sort of fall into the same category of, serious construction projects that are being, put on hold, or whether that's something that, MTA can manage currently with its contract.
No, I appreciate that, Delegate. I'm going to pass it in in a moment over to Kevin Overheim to describe what we're doing for Littonsville Bridge, but I can say that that is actually part of the work that is being placed with the new design build contractor. But Kevin, if you might jump in and just, we've reached resolution on what all the work that needs to be done, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Matt. In the interim period, like you mentioned, we are going to perform the graffiti removal and recoating of the substructure at the Littonsville Bridge. But the remaining work to complete, we finalized all the design details. There's some coordination with Montgomery County on some things that had not been finalized on the design side to complete, like the interface with the elevator. That's part of the reason that the walls and sidewalk were never completed. Previously, the PLTC had not finalized the details on the station interface with the bridge before they went ahead and built the bridge. So that just kind of got left in limbo, and those details have all been finalized and will be passed on to the next builder to complete.
Thank you, and thank you again to your team for doing the community walk with us last fall. I know folks really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Solomon. And now we're going to move on to questions that came in before the meeting. But before we do so, I'd like to acknowledge Joe Moses from the State Highway Administration, who's on the call and can address any questions that are related to the SHA. Now on to the questions that came in before the meeting. Matt.
All right, thank you. So I think you'll see something familiar, at least in the second bullet. But obviously, let's talk about the first three, which we touched on a little bit, but I'll give you a little more details. So the first, it's question one would be when would the Capitol Crescent Trail open? Next question being when will the Talbot Avenue Bridge be completed? And the third question is when is the anticipated completion date of the project? And as I was mentioning when discussing Delegate Solomon's questions, I really wish I could answer them with a complete date, but I can't give you a date for any of those. Just backing up a little on the resolicitation. Once the preferred design build contractor is selected by the concessionaire and it's approved by MDOT-MTA, that entire P3 agreement with updated cost and high level schedule information is going to go before the Board of Public Works this fall. So when it does go before the Board of Public Works in the fall, we're going to have that high level schedule information, and that's going to include what we consider our date for the commencement of revenue service. Now, once the design build contractor is brought under contract, they're going to be responsible for putting together a detailed construction schedule, and that's going to include all the projected finish dates for the individual work items, such as the trail and the bridge. And it's going to be in that detailed schedule level that's going to take a few months, where we should be able to, well, not should, we will be able to see the completion dates for all of the work being sequenced. Another question. Under the original contract, there were incentives for getting to opening. The concessionaire holding some of the financing for the project, 2 payments at key milestones, and the availability payments only starting as the project is open for public transit. Are those incentives remaining in place? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is basically that the new design build contractor will have similar incentives for getting the light rail line open for service. Back to you, Gary.
Okay, I see we have questions from Roger Payton. I know some of that has been touched on, but Roger, please fire away your questions.
Actually, I had 3. The first one was already answered. It was about the completion date on the Talbot Avenue Bridge. I take it the answer to that is we won't know the answer until a couple months after you hire the contractor, which will happen sometime, say, late summer. The second question is, with the Maryland State Legislature passing its reforestation bill requiring the reforestation of trees, will it be possible to plant trees on the lot you now own on Leonard Drive? And the third then is, can trees be planted around the new stormwater management facility?
I think I'm going to need to have Kevin give the detailed answers, Roger, but I know that we've taken a look at the stormwater facility in the past, and I don't think that we were able to put in much in the way of landscaping or overbuild due to the requirements of the facility itself. Maybe we should touch on that first, and then I can talk about the reforestation bill. Kevin, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, our as part of our stormwater facility design, as that goes through the design process and with MDE, that includes a review of the landscaping. All of our stormwater facilities have various plantings. In some cases, it's grasses and ground cover type plantings, or depends on the type of feature that the stormwater facility is going to be. We have ones that hold water, ones that are dry. Ones that filter through sand mix. So each facility is unique, and there's a landscaping plan for each one. So those plans have already been finalized and gone through the review process with MDE.
And
Roger,
certainly, yeah, go ahead, Roger.
Roger, does that address your questions?
Actually, with regards to the stormwater facility, I was actually thinking about trees being planted around it, not on it, to kind of shield the community from it.
I don't have an answer for that right now. We'll certainly we'll have to get back and answer the question in the follow-up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Roger. I mean, so now the second question had to do overall with the reforestation, and that is actually not happening as part of the Purple Line project itself. That is the way the legislation was set up. That is being handled by a separate area within the Department of Transportation. And so what we can do for that is we can give you a contact for reaching out further to learn what's going on. I know basically right now that department is charged with developing the reforestation program. And they're not yet at the point where they're actually going out to the public and seeking input on the various areas where the reforestation is taking place. So it's still in the planning stages. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd appreciate the contact, and maybe you could send that out via email to the other CAP members.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a question from Joe Tidell.
Joel Teitelbaum, isn't it?
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, hi. Several people, we're just ordinary citizens. We're not engineers. We don't know how to make bridges, and we don't even know how to make them fall down. But when we see the unfinished Talbot Avenue Bridge hanging rather precariously, it seems, on the just above the Rosemary Hills Elementary School, where its extra height, as you all pointed out, was required by CSX, not in the original plan, but the way it would appear to abut, to connect onto the future Talbot Avenue ramp, is highly uncertain to us. We have no idea how that will be achieved, as the angle that it was supposed to be at, which was a wide angle with a turn that would be not even have a stop sign, as we were told in the past, looks to me like it's much closer to a 90-degree angle, which would probably require a stop sign, or at least some means of people turning hard right coming off the bridge and hard left going on the bridge from Rosemary Hills, Littonsville side. And we're wondering how this extremely steep ramp, much steeper than was expected before, down to Lanier and Talbot Avenue will be constructed, given these, what we seem to think are changed dimensions, changed angles, changed approach, actually, on that side of the bridge. We're not asking questions about North Woodside because it appears to be almost a direct connection there with a T-junction turns, which could be controlled. But we were told it would be a seamless transition across the bridge onto the Talbot Avenue ramp without even a stop sign. Are you still talking that way? Or are you thinking of hard turns? And the angle, let's call it the elevation angle, as it passes by the back end of Rosemary Hills Elementary, which has both single-story and two-story classrooms backed up against it. How are you going to achieve that turn and that angle without encroaching to further extent than this project already has on the actual wall and property line of Rosemary Hills Elementary? Not to mention, and this is my real concern, that it would actually obscure or be very close, the walls of this ramp and turn be very close to the actual classrooms and possibly interfere with classroom teaching. Is there anything you can tell us about that? Not in the construction, but in the final design. Is this final design complete? And may we see images of it that are accurate, currently accurate? Thank you.
That was a great question. It was a long question, but it was a great question. And I thank you for that, Kevin. I'll get to you in a second. So yes, the answer is yes. The design is final, and yes, we can provide drawings that are going to show, plan view or section view or different views. A lot of it has to do with, it's sort of like the optics of right now, where you can look to see where it's going. And it's a little deceiving because I know the way it's set up it is just going to be a curve. It's not going to be a stop sign. And I know there is going to be, a gradual grade up. It's not going to go sharp like it might appear right now, because there's still a bunch of work that actually has to be done down there. Kevin, is there anything you want to add? I mean, obviously we'll get the drawings as well, but I think Kevin,
could you get the drawings to us, the images sent out to us promptly, all of us who were on this call, and the CAT, of course, the CAT representatives? Yeah,
absolutely. I would note though that they're going to be engineering and construction drawings. They're not going to be like renderings showing like what would be like a 3D view of a completed bridge. It's going to be construction drawings, but we'll send them over. And if there are questions as far as readability or what the heck we've sent you, we can always stop by and walk through it with the group.
Yeah, please, the engineering drawings, please, ASAP. I don't trust any renderings. They're always a little bit exaggerated or understated.
Well, you'll be pleased because we don't have renderings. So
yeah, we're worried about your renderings.
Okay, good. Kevin, you want to jump in?
Sure. So I think I'll just touch on the first thing you said, which was the way it was left looks a little bit precarious. And one of the last things that we had the previous contractor perform before they left was installation of what we call concrete diaphragms, which are essentially the cross frames that hold all the girders together. So that locks the girders in place. And that was done right before they left as a make sure that everything was safe, because we knew that they were leaving and we did not know when that work would restart. So that was the girders are secure. The bridge is stable. We monitor it frequently, inspect it every week to make sure we're not running into any issues out there. In terms of
we haven't seen any inspectors there, and I go there every day.
All right. Well, we are in and out throughout the project each and every day.
Send us a record of your inspection frequency, please?
Sure. We can put something together.
Thank you.
In terms of the bridge geometry, Matt mentioned there's no stop sign at the bridge. The new bridge is on a skew compared to the old bridge, which made a sharp 90 as it approached from behind the school. The new alignment will be on a skew, so the abutment behind the school is closer to linear than the original abutment was. So there's more of a gradual turn. It's not a hard 90 as you turn onto the bridge. And there's a series of retaining walls on both sides of the roadway approach to the bridge that help elevate it. and separated from the school and from the CSX and light rail tracks.
And how close will it come to the school buildings? And will it use any of the school property to make that ramp descend?
So I believe the school actually owned a lot of the original Talbot Avenue roadway to begin with. So part of we have an agreement with Montgomery County Public Schools related to work on their property at Talbot Avenue, as well as Silver Spring International Middle School and Wayne Avenue. So they already owned a lot of the original Talbot Avenue roadway. And so there's been some property transactions or property agreements in order to rebuild that work. I can't answer.
They ceded to you an extra 12 feet, we're aware, but now you're going to come up against their retaining wall with a small sidewalk right behind the actual school buildings. How close can you get to the school and still have a functional situation for the school and the bridge?
I don't know exactly how close we are off the top of my head. That's something we can look at on the drawings with you and call out.
You want to see drawings that include where the school's located.
Yep, absolutely. And the school had reviewed all of our plans, including the retaining wall drawings, as part of our design process.
Okay, what about the current retaining wall? Will that be demolished when the ramp goes up?
Are you talking about the wall behind the school?
Correct.
A portion of it will, and that's toward near the, I guess, the southern end, where the road turns onto the bridge. So a portion of that wall will come out, a portion will stay, and our new retaining walls are all designed to interface with the existing walls where they remain.
And will you be taking part of the parking lot in the back of the school?
There are some minor changes to that back corner because we rebuild the staircase that goes down to it, but they are very minor. It is not, we are not taking, multiple spaces of the parking lot permanently. There's just some modifications to the sidewalk and the staircase at the corner where Lanier ties in to Talbot.
And will it intersect at a junction with both Lanier and Talbot Avenue?
The roadway to the Talbot Avenue Bridge?
The ramp, yes.
Yes, it will. Talbot Avenue will carry on essentially straight from Michigan all the way up to the bridge.
From
Okay.
Michigan. And what about Lanier?
Let's move on to other questions.
We'd like to see all that in your drawings.
Joe, we'll share it with you when we share the drawings with you. Next, we have a question
Send
from
it to us
Julie Lees.
ASAP.
Julie Lees.
Yes, I'm unmuting now. Okay, hi. I'm the CAT representative from North Woodside. And I just have two questions. One, I read that the Talbot Bridge was not properly protected when they stopped working on it, and that there is rust that now needs to be repaired, removed. Do you know anything about that, and how big a problem is it?
I'm sorry, I'll jump in here. I'm not aware of any rust issues. That the girder, the substructure and the girders are all made of concrete. I don't believe we have any exposed steel that would be exposed to rust out there. Something we could certainly take an extra look for. But the substructure as well as the girders that are out there are all concrete structures.
Okay, I'm sorry I don't have the reference. It was in some kind of public thing like Bethesda Beach or Silver Spring patch. If I can find it, I will send it to you. It was a while ago. Second question, just verifying any traffic issues like the location of stop signs or lights. Those are county issues, right? They're not your bailiwick.
Joe, you want to jump in on this one?
Depends where it is. This is Joe Mogus, MDOT District 3 Traffic. Could
Okay.
you please restate the location you were referencing?
I'm talking about the immediate approaches to the bridge on both sides, on the Rosemary Hills Elementary School side and the Northwood side, in terms of stop signs, lights, pedestrian crossings.
I'm sorry, Liddensville Place Bridge or?
Talbot.
Yeah, this is county.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And just to, I'm sorry, I thought of one more thing. The finishes, the railing, the chain link fence, the clear, et cetera. Is that what was agreed upon last year? That hasn't changed? Because I know we spent a lot of time on it. I don't need to go back over it, but that is unchanged with the slightly different design.
We have not changed any of our design parameters going forward in between yet during this period where we have to switch contractors.
Okay.
You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Pat Tyson, you had your hand up?
Thank you. My questions were regarding the distance of the bridge from the school building, and you've answered that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see we have some questions from Webb Smedley. Webb, fire away. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry.
There
So
you
the
go.
first one regards the Spring Street Bridge, which obviously was delayed along with everything else. And if you have any idea whether it will be started in 2022.
The short answer is I don't have an answer for it, but the longer answer is that the contractor is not allowed to take the Spring Street Bridge out of service until the Talbot Avenue Bridge is completed and open for service. So until we know when they plan to complete Talbot Avenue Bridge, we don't know how soon Spring Street could begin.
Okay, so in the same area, my understanding from the RK&K project manager is that the water line and the sewer line that you talked about in your introduction will be finished hopefully by the end of the year. You're managing that yourselves. But the storm drain work has not been scheduled. Is that true?
Kevin, you're the expert on this one.
Yeah, that's correct. We're moving forward with the water and the sewer relocation work. The storm drain through that section along 3rd Avenue needs to be built in conjunction with the Capitol Crest Trail. There's retaining walls, significant grading work, and all that is kind of tied together. The storm drain is built with the full construction of the Capitol Crescent Trail, but the utility relocations that we're doing now are a predecessor. They need to be completed before the Capitol Crescent Trail work can be started, because those utilities are in the way of the Capitol Crescent Trail walls. So we're moving forward with those utility relocations. That way we kind of clear the path for the next builder to come in and begin construction on the Capitol Crescent Trail.
So my last question regards sort of a follow-up on the tree on the tree issue that was raised earlier. So in your introduction you said you were restarting clearing of trees. Well, you were starting clearing of trees. In fact, trees were cleared. A substantial number of trees were cleared in 2019 before the project was put on hold. At that time, we were provided, the Woodside neighborhood was provided with a limit of disturbance and given time to remove smaller removable plants and get them out of the clear cut area, which we did with hundreds of hours of volunteer work and quite a bit of success. Now the limit of disturbance line has been moved further into where these trees were relocated, and there's no delineation and no respect for that line because there's no tree protection. So I guess my question on protection of trees outside of the area that has to be disturbed for the project is, what are the MDE requirements? Because at this point, it doesn't seem like there are any. It's like a tree gets, tagged one day, and then another tree is indicated to be remaining, and then, later it gets tagged because we say, well, we really need that space as well. So I've never heard of or seen a project with so much work where there's no silt protection, and no tree protection for existing to remain trees. So I feel like it's like all bets are off. We're going to have a lot of rain in a little while. So the issue of silt protection is big in my mind because we already had flooding in the area before the project, and now there's acres of unprotected soil. So can you talk a little bit about what's going on in the next month on Ballard Extended?
Kevin, are you in a position to discuss how that process works?
Sure. On your first point, Webb, I think with regard to like silt fence and erosion sediment controls, typically with utility work, especially when it's utility work that's in the road, where we're trenching in a roadway, MDE does not require any additional things like silt fence, because a lot of times those kinds of controls can be create more disturbance than we're creating with the utility work to install additional controls where we require digging and other excavation work. So when we're trenching within a roadway, typically that we use what's called same-day stabilization. So whatever we disturb that day, we stabilize with straw or matting, or patch up with asphalt or stone to make sure that we're not leaving anything exposed at the end of the shift. On the tree protection, I can check with.
I'm sorry, Kevin, but just one correction. I mean, this isn't in the roadway. This work is on the right of way adjacent to the private roadway on a public right of way. So it's
I can check with our environmental team on what controls may be called for there, but typically before we can install any controls, if there are any that are required through there, typically the trees would need to be removed first, or at least some portion of the trees, in order to be able to install those things like silt fence, because they can't be trenched through the tree roots or through the tree trunks and brush. So there is some clearing required in advance of putting in those controls to make way for contractors' equipment and those materials to come in. So I will check with our environmental team and make sure that we're not missing something there. But I know that both MDE and our own internal environmental oversight both regularly inspecting, and we have an MDE inspector who's independent of the project, and he is on site every week checking various places along the alignment.
Webb, these are good questions. And actually, we have our next construction interface meeting that includes these environmental folks tomorrow morning. So we'll make sure that we address it in the morning.
All right. I think Kevin, I sort of interrupted him on his response to the last part of my question about tree protection, but I got him back on silt fence, which I stand by. I mean, there's going to be a lot of muck back there going into the Rock Creek watershed if something's not done in the next, before the next big rain, which is only a matter of time. So I'd love to meet the MDE representative. I'm still working partially at home, and I can meet him at any time to talk about it, as well as your environmental manager and your arborist, who apparently is, not required protection of trees that are definitely worth saving and are outside of the expanded area that's been clear cut. Again, I understand. I work in planning and construction at the University of Maryland. I know that there's a lot of stuff that you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. But what I'm seeing now is just, just a lack of attention to detail. And, I know that a lot of, with the depth of the sanitary drain and the water line, that you have to clear a fairly substantial area. But now it just seems like it only gets worse every time we see what's going on. And there's no end in sight. I mean, I don't live directly on the right of way, but I can tell you the people who do feel like, it's one thing if the end is near, but the way this whole thing has been phased, the removal of trees started 2 years ago, and there's no end in sight. You can't tell when the other major elements are going to happen. The Spring Street Bridge is going to be you know, a nightmare for everyone, as I'm sure the other bridge reconstructions have been. And that doesn't even finish it, because then you have a lot of work for the Capitol Crescent Trail. So, you know, if we had a complete schedule, it's a lot easier to, you know, get people to be more patient. And I'm live in a community that was supportive of the Purple Line from the beginning. So it's really disturbing to see it proceeding in such a haphazard way.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We appreciate the feedback, and we appreciate the fact that you recognize this, that having that schedule in hand is going to be a much better tool once we finally get it. So we're looking forward to it as well.
All right, we will open the floor to community members, beyond CAP members. If your question is not addressed tonight, don't worry. All questions will be addressed later in a question and response posting on the website. Similar questions will be combined, so you may not see your question posted verbatim. Again, you also can type in your questions using the chat function. We will address your questions if we have time. Additionally, we will accept questions for a week until July 6th at outreach@purplelinemd.com. Outreach@purplelinemd.com. Is that Joel? Go ahead.
Yes, it is. Well, I got 3 questions, and it's all about the bus service and the Purple Line. And it's the right on operation building on Brookville Road. I wonder if they're going to have some of the property on the operation, right on operation, will be have to give up some of the property. And I want to know if they're going to have a feeder buses from the 2 stations, and also they're going to have 3 different routes: number 2, number 4, and number 5. Number 5 is on 16th Street, and number 2 is on Brookville Road and Lanesville Road, and the 4 goes on 2nd Avenue and crosses over to 16th Street. Where are they gonna? These were my questions.
Well, thank you, Joel. Certainly, some of those bus stops will be impacted, and much of that will be determined by the bus companies like Ride On and other regional services. And that has not been determined. That'll be coming down the road, and we'll update you as we can when we find out more. But for the most part, we believe bus stops will remain intact where they are. But in some cases, of course, because there's a new rail line coming in, some will move. But we'll determine that later on in the project. But we'll continue to monitor and keep you posted as we find out more.
How about that right on bus operation on Brookville Road?
I'm not sure how that'll be impacted, but I'll check.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Raise your hands, please.
Ms. Tyson raised her hand.
Go ahead, Ms. Tyson.
Hoping I heard it. Even though you're going to send us the drawings of the height of the bridge and everything, did anybody say that there was a possibility of us walking to a certain distance so we could see exactly what what it looks like up there? It's very difficult from this side of Littonsville to see. When we look, we just see, something up very high, but is it there? We can't get a real view of how high and close it is to the school.
Ms. Tyson, I think that's something we can certainly accommodate. Right now, during this interim construction period, we do have ownership of the right of way. So it's just a matter of coordinating a time that, it's not too muddy and make sure that there's a an accessible walking area. But I don't think it's an issue for us having a small group out there, carefully treading along the alignment, staying away from CSX and finding our way closer.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
I think Gary, can you help coordinate that?
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
I always enjoy seeing you, Pat. Okay, other questions?
Gary, you see the delegate's hand up?
Go ahead, delegate.
Thank you, Matt and Gary. And Matt, I'd love to be part of the walkthrough as well. We always enjoy having you out in the neighborhood. The only other question that I had was, I know one of the things we talked about in the fall on the walkthrough was the signal, the horn sound that was going to blast when the at-grade crossing went through the Brookville neighborhood. And I know we haven't made a lot of progress on the actual tracks, but any update or sense of what the resolution may be on that issue?
Gary, have you been involved in our train horn meetings?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't have any information on that one, but I'll look into it and get back to you, delegate.
Great, thank you.
We have another question from Mr. Titlebaum.
Yeah, hi. I don't want to hit the same issue, but I want to ask this, which is a general question. I understand that the Board of Public Works, if not the legislature, has approved an additional under 182 or more million for the kind of work that's being done now before the design build contractor gets on board and maybe continuing. Is that money being used for the utility relocation and all the other activities that you are currently doing or propose to do?
That's a good question, Joe. It's all tied up in the definition of actually what happened. So that there was 183 million in contract authority that was approved by the Board of Public Works. That contract authority is specific to our program management consultant, and it isn't related to construction work. In fact, that approval of contract authority doesn't actually translate into funding that is fully or immediately available to the Purple Line project. It just gives us the ability to continue to maintain our PMC resources. And what we did is it allowed us to move the schedule out all the way through revenue service to ensure that we can continue to keep those our oversight team on board. Unfortunately, it's not additional construction funding.
So just to follow up,
yeah.
The program management consultant, what's their names? And how will we see them in action? What do they actually do that we can see happening?
Absolutely, that's a great question. And that was actually one of the things Katie Shaver covered in her short article about it. It's a joint venture of three major engineering firms. It's AECOM, it is WSP, and it is RK&K. And these folks are the people who are actually overseeing all the construction activities. So pretty much everybody that you see in the field, if it's not me or Gary or Vern or Anita, it is probably a member of our PMC team, including Kevin, who's been contributing to this meeting tonight.
Or is that PMC team of contractors doing the inspections that you've been talking about? You said weekly inspections are being done. For example, Talbot Avenue Bridge. Are
Kevin,
they
is
doing
that through the PMC? Or is that through, okay.
That's through our team, and our environmental inspectors that I mentioned before are also part of our team.
They work for MTA?
Well, they're under the PMC contract. So
Okay. Okay,
yep.
so they're contractors also.
Yes.
How do we get in touch with them? I've seen hide nor hair of them.
Well, typically they're out there keeping an eye on the work when it's underway. So I don't know that there's been a lot of work back in that particular area. I know when they were working on the Pepco pole, you probably saw them out at that time. Certainly, if you visit any of our active construction sites, you'll see the folks there. I guess I'm not exactly sure how to answer your question, Joe.
Okay, all right. So they're in other places along the
Yes.
alignment. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
I
if
watched
you
the
have
Pepco
questions for them,
pole.
Joe, you can funnel them
Pepco
through the
pole
outreach hotline.
being set up. I didn't see any inspectors.
Okay.
And Joe, if you have any questions, you can funnel them through the outreach hotline, and we
Yeah.
can see if we can get them
Well,
answered.
I wanted to bring to your attention because we'd like to see more action, obviously, and including supervision.
Amen.
Of the location. Yeah.
Amen.
Thank you.
Okay, I see that Eric Cochamiro, did I pronounce that right? Has a question.
Hello, can you hear me all right, Gary
Yes.
and Matt?
Yes.
Thanks so much. I had two brief questions. I live in the Woodside neighborhood of Silver Spring. And thank you to Delegate Solomon for joining this call. He is one of our delegates and a fierce advocate for all things transportation, including expansion of the MARC, which I know is not related to this work, but is really phenomenal. Two quick questions. As they continue to do landscaping and change water lines and do whatever other things they do, what is the current projected start date for construction on the Capitol Crescent Trail as it goes through my neighborhood? And two, is there any, I'm significantly concerned as this happens about as the Capitol Crescent Trail gets created, as the Purple Line gets created, about the noise pollution in my neighborhood. And as a result of the Purple Line. Have there been any consideration to plan amendments which would create a noise barrier? Or how is that factored in as the work moves forward?
Well, in general, Eric, the design is fully complete along the alignment in those areas where it was determined that there might be noise impacts coming from the vehicles, and typically it's on the lower end of the vehicles where the wheels are. There have been some noise walls installed along the alignment. I don't know how it relates exactly to your area around Woodside. Typically, though, well, or maybe you don't know, the light rail vehicles are relatively quiet. They're going to be quieter than Washington Metro vehicle for a couple reasons. One is they're not up in the air and for the most part, and creating more of that a vibration type of sound. We also have these boots around the rail that is providing isolation, but also some dampening. Actually, Vern knows this better than me. Vern, are you still around?
Yes, I am. And let me just mention that in addition to what you've mentioned, Matt, the suspension systems of the light rail vehicle are inherently designed to provide a smoother and quieter ride. And
gentlemen, respectfully, that's not my question. I know light rail is quiet. My concern is that you all have cut down a noise barrier to create the Capitol Crescent Trail from our neighborhood, and we have MARC, Metro, and now the Purple Line going through our neighborhood. So the plan, certainly the Purple Line is well under development, but it's also years from being done. What is who would I contact to ask for consideration of a plan amendment or would this have to be through my local elected officials and to get an appropriation to fund something like this? And then two, again, what is the projected start date for construction of the Capitol Crescent Trail?
Okay, very good. So the start of the Capitol Crescent Trail is going to be understood when we have our detailed schedule from our contractor. Right now, we don't have our new contractor on board. We're looking to go up before the Board of Public Works in the fall, and that's going to have a high-level schedule that may not include specific level of details that you're looking for. However, once that new design builder is on board, they're going to have to give us a complete and detailed construction schedule for the entire works. That'll follow a few months after they're on board, and that will allow us to pinpoint exactly when the work is proposed to start, and also when it's forecast to finish in particular areas. So that's as far as when the actual work is going to take place in there. Now, if there are concerns about noise levels, I guess during the construction period, is that what you're saying? You're talking about during the construction period, or you're talking about once it's all built?
Once it's all built, guys.
Once it's all built, you know, there are going to be noise requirements that we're required to meet, and we're going to be testing to those noise requirements.
All right,
And
that's as good as
we don't
answer
meet
as any.
them- Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so as of now, just to confirm, as of now, since you don't have a new contractor in place, you do not even have a projected start date for the Capitol Crescent Trail construction, but you have just started with the landscaping of removing trees, of the water lines of that, because that does not require the new contractor.
Right. So basically what we are trying to do is we're trying to get work out of the way where we can, so that the design builder isn't losing time. So
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Eric.
Okay, other questions? Delegate Solomon, you still have your hand raised. Is there another question?
He might have been driving.
Okay, other questions? Going once? Well, this concludes our 8th CAT meeting for the Littonsville Greater Woodside communities. We thank you for joining us tonight, and I'm gonna say goodnight and let Matt have the final word.
Thank you, Gary. You know, I really appreciate this participation. You know, asking your tough questions are important for us, you know, and to the extent that we can answer it immediately, we want to answer them immediately. To the extent that we can't, we're going to research them and get back to you. You know, we appreciate it. This virtual thing is still weird to me. Hopefully it's coming to an end. I'm looking forward to, you know, our next CAT meetings being in person, and hopefully it'll be an opportunity for all of us to get back together again if we don't meet in the meantime for a tour or a visit to see what's going on with, you know, the Talbot Avenue approach and many other things. So, you know, keep those questions coming. You know, please feel free to use our outreach hotline or email address if you have questions that we haven't addressed yet today. And, you know, I just really appreciate all of it. And I appreciate your interest in our project, your project.
Good night, everybody.